everyone, welcome once again to S.H.I.E.L.D Discussions. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
Today we're talking about the Hub, which is an episode that I was immediately excited about within the first 5 minutes because of the Hub and what it is. Dan, we have a headquarters now! Yay!
Very cool.
And it looks good! It's got scope, and it immediately makes this world feel a lot bigger to me. Let's just talk about that for a minute. I thought that was great. I thought it looked fantastic.
I thought it was very cool that we got to see S.H.I.E.L.D. authority higher than Coulson, and I mean we got Fury and Maria Hill in previous episodes, but it was never like in a context other than the plane, really, or that initial place where they started before they got the plane with Maria Hill. So it was nice. Yeah, I agree. It was nice to see how S.H.I.E.L.D. operates in its secret kind of headquarters. Like the CIA headquarters kind of would look like in real life. It was very cool.
And we learn more about what the rules are and
Yeah.
the hierarchy and all the levels and stuff. And obviously that plays real hard into what the themes of the episode is. And I liked all that. You know what I think this show could really use, Dan, that I didn't think of until this episode? I think this show could really use one of those upper agents giving Coulson like a mission at the beginning of some of the episodes. Like Mission Impossible-esque. Like it would immediately make it feel more like a spy show if you had like a regular a person over Coulson that says, "Okay, Coulson, we need you to go here."
Yeah.
I wish we had that character because like we had on S.H.I.E.L.D, we had a couple different characters that did that, and they always did some fun things with those characters. I think the show could use that.
I hope that Victoria Hand kind of becomes that, because
I like her.
you can't really have Fury doing that for Coulson for obvious reasons, because Samuel L. Jackson plays Nick Fury, and you could get Colby Smulders after How I Met Your Mother ends, but that might not even be till next season, potentially anyway. So if Victoria Hand became that sort of regular role where, I mean, obviously we see in this episode, her and Coulson have very different views on how they should be deploying their agents and that sort of thing. I think it'd be very interesting to have that sort of tension with him and his authority while Skye is struggling with the authority on the plane. It's a nice parallel between the two of them that played out in this episode very nicely. And I think having that as an ongoing kind of thing would be interesting and worthwhile.
Also, the hierarchy of S.H.I.E.L.D. as we see it here is enormous. There's so many people. I mean, Coulson's level 8, he's up there, but he's level 8.
Yes,
but there are so many people between him and Fury that it seems unlikely even that it would be Maria Hill giving him those orders. Like it seems like there would still be somebody even under her that was giving that was giving out.
Because she's like Fury's right hand woman.
Yeah, so and I thought that this episode made a really good case for the fact that we're not getting the top tier of S.H.I.E.L.D. all the time. I think that was the thing that turned people off from it at the beginning, where like, well, this feels like the B or C team. It's not really, it doesn't feel important enough. We want like the top of S.H.I.E.L.D. But the thing you got to keep in mind is we want to follow people that are actually going out on missions and doing things.
Right.
And I'm sold much more now on the airplane than I was at the beginning, just because back then I was like, oh, we don't get to be on a base all the time, okay. But what I'm really appreciating about it is the thing you always talked about early on, which is because you're on an airplane, you can go all over the world all the time, and every episode we're in a different country, so that's really cool. But also, now that we've seen the Hub, you really get the feel and scope of just how big S.H.I.E.L.D. is and just how many agents there are, and how if you did a show that was just about the top people at the upper echelon, it'd be watching people sitting in desks telling people to do things.
Right. I mean, you would have had like a show about what Melinda May was doing before she joined this team, the show, sitting at a desk rubber stamping things, and that's not exciting.
Yeah, so I mean, the thing people have to keep in mind is that they made this make perfect sense, especially with this episode, because with Fury and with Maria Hill in Avengers, of course they were directly involved because it was an alien invasion. It was the biggest possible thing you could imagine.
Right.
So the running point right at the front, but you can't expect that sort of a threat every week on a TV show, and that would be silly. So I don't know. I think they're doing a really good job of making this premise not feel lame, like I think some people felt like maybe it was at the beginning. you know, even I, who was already okay with it, am even more on board now.
Yeah, and I mean, the pitch of the show initially, Joss Whedon had said that it's like how regular people react to this world of superheroes, and I
Yeah,
think he makes a case here for, or I don't mean him, whoever wrote this episode, or I mean he show runs it, so he like controls the direction of the show. I don't know who necessarily wrote this one, but these are in the context of Shield, these do seem like the regular people, if you know what I mean. Like they're
yeah.
not. I mean, Coulson's the highest level access person, but like you said, there's people that are miles above him. Especially in the end scene we get here, where he tries to learn more about his past. Like he doesn't even have access to information about himself, let alone the larger picture of what Shield is doing in the world.
Don't you feel like with this episode, and I know some people have complained that like every episode we've got to talk about the fact that he died, but I think that's super super important, and maybe they've laid it on a little thick, but I really liked what they were doing with it here. Don't you feel like he is way more on a leash than he is even aware of?
Yes, especially the conversation he has with Victoria Hand as to like where he went uh, after that. Like the conversation that they had, it seemed like she knew what was going on and was sort of like I don't know what the word is. She wasn't like sad about it like Maria Hill was when we saw that scene where she was like very ominous and kind of like he should never know. Victoria Hand was a little bit more snarky about it. Like she didn't
Yeah,
have the same sort of regard for his life that Maria Hill did. And Victoria Hand is that kind of character. I mean, this is the character that ran hammer with Norman Osborn during Dark Reign under Bendis's pen. Like she's
oh,
not a
I didn't know she was comic book.
yeah, she is.
Cool.
That's why
Well,
I thought it was so cool to have her in here.
for more comic book
Yeah.
characters, yeah. I'm really glad I got you on the show with me because I don't know Shield at all. I'm here because I have read Marvel comics and I know Joss Whedon. That's why I'm here, and because I decided to make the show. But yeah, sorry, I broke my pen. I was picking up on that scene more of the wow, Coulson seems programmed
Mhm.
thing, and he had once again. I'm telling you, man. Every time somebody mentions Tahiti, he is programmed to say it's a magical place. Like I'm telling you, he cannot help himself but to say that, and I'm not convinced that he remembers being there.
I don't think
I
so.
don't know that. I'm not even sure he has like memories of Tahiti because maybe he does, like that they planted or something. Maybe he does, but you notice how he never talks about anything specific that went on there.
No, he never does. And like when he says it's a magical place in this one, it's not with a happy sort of demeanor like he had said it before. It seems like he's trying to stop himself from saying it. Like there's a pause between some of the words in here. I don't know the way Clark Gregg delivered it. It seemed like it was much more of a force thing than it ever had been before.
Yeah, and I love that because it's an escalation, right?
Yeah.
And you get to the end of the episode, and of course he has that stinger that I really liked, where he's trying to find files on what happened to him, and so he doesn't buy that that's where he was.
Right.
He knows something else is going on, and he's known this. I think from the beginning. I think what happened was he tried really hard to bury himself in his work and to reinvent himself and to completely put off the fact that something happened to him. And I don't think he wanted to know. And I think he's at a place now where he needs to know because he doesn't feel because he's not sure he's a person, and I really think they're going to play up the kind of like traditional clone. It's funny we've had so many clone stories now. I can use the word traditional that we've had like the traditional that we would have the traditional science fiction almost clone kind of thing, whether he's a clone or a life model decoy or what he is of if I was created artificially, am I a human being with a soul? And keep in mind that Joss Whedon is the guy who created Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He does a lot of stories about what makes a human being and what is a soul and can you be a person without one and that sort of thing. Is there any spirituality whatsoever to being a human being? This being the guy who made Spike in season 6 Buffy such a really interesting character without a soul. I think that's where they're going with this guy.
I think so too, and I love how much Sky and him are beginning to become paralleled in this show too, because like
Yes.
it's getting to the point where she has to know about her past too, and she tried to do the same thing to avoid figuring out what it was. She buried herself in that rising tide kind of work, and seeking
Yeah,
the truth
good
about the
point.
entire world instead of her on a personal level. She doesn't know who she is. The same thing that Coulson's going through, and that's why I loved the conversation that her and Coulson had about some of the things they had in this episode. I'll talk about more when I get in my best moment, but they have a lot of the same concerns, but go about dealing with them in different ways.
Oh, that's such an excellent point, Dan. The idea that these two people, because they're kind of scared of their past, or maybe just afraid that they'll never know what it is, and they have to make themselves about something. Like like I said, throw themselves into the work, but also make themselves about like a very specific, very broad ideal,
Mm-hmm.
and it's try to stick to that, and that's what they are, and it makes them one-dimensional. Like they don't feel like people when they do it long enough, and eventually it all goes back to the personal stuff, which is why I love this episode. And by the way, I love this episode, and that's why I love this episode as being obviously you've talked so much about questioning authority in this show, and the idea of they play out that you trust the system over and over again. We hear
Yeah.
that, and you discover by the end that none of them do. Not one person in the show truly trusts the system when it becomes personal. There is always, the old adage, every man has his price.
Oh yeah.
Eventually, every one of these characters will probably get to a place where even I think Simmons, who says, "No, I like the system. I'm comfortable in the system. I really like that." That I think even she is likely to have a moment somewhere in the show where the system no longer trumps I need to know something
Right.
personally. I can't my personal motivation right now is more important than the system that I believed in.
And we kind of got that in this episode. I mean, that's why she agrees to help Sky in here in the first place.
You're right. She did well. Actually, let's break this down.
Sure.
Does every character in this episode have a moment like that already? Because we know Coulson has it, we know Sky has it, and they have, as you said, paralleling ones.
Hmm.
Um,
I think Ward and Fitz have almost, if I'm reading it right, maybe sort of the opposite thing,
Opposite,
which is
yeah.
interesting. As field agents, those are the kind of people that you need out in the field to do the task, the ones that have blind trust of the system and will do whatever the orders of the authoritative figure says to get
Yeah,
things
well,
done effectively.
and you notice they just make the assumption that the rescue plan didn't work, not that there wasn't one.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you're right. So they're the opposite, and so maybe what we're doing also is we're playing up the kinds of agents these people are, and also which ones are cut out for being agents at all, and which ones are cut out for field work and certain kinds of things. I really liked how we get very definitive moments where we find that that at least so far Simmons not cut out for field work, and Fitz very much is.
Yes.
I really enjoyed that. I liked to the almost absurd degree that Simmons was not cut out for that because it's pretty much in her character. Let me say also that this episode, because I was very down on last episode,
Mhm.
and this episode made me instantly like that episode a lot more.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm saying that, I'm not just saying that because a lot of our viewers were irritated that I didn't like that episode. I'm
Sure.
saying that because yeah, I mean, I got a lot of flack for
Right,
that,
right.
and fair enough, I get it. They hadn't convinced me yet. A lot of people in the comments were like, "Well, maybe he'll come around eventually." Guys, I've come around. The very next episode, and it's not just because folks said that. I would have anyway, and especially with Fitz. I mean, I like Simmons even more now too, but it's not just that I like them more. I feel like I understand them better.
Mm.
And especially Fitz. I want to really get into talking about him because I found the thing with him and Ward fascinating when I expected to loathe it.
Yeah, I mean there were there were interesting let me back up. The thing that I think was interesting about this episode, like you had said in the context of the last episode, is we spent so much time defining the relationship they have with each other, and this episode takes them apart. And we have to
Yes,
see how they deal with each other without that sort of dynamic.
and immediately, and that's the thing is, I feel like I needed to see this before I understood what they were doing with last episode. I wasn't trusting them. I wasn't trusting the system, Dan. And What I didn't get from last episode, because I didn't know they were going to go here this quickly with this one. I didn't know this episode was going to be about those characters again.
Mm.
I expected. Remember, I said unfairly, now that I've seen this, that I thought last episode was them like trying to force me to like those characters. Now that I've seen this, I get where they were going. What they were doing was like you said, they were showing us not just how much those two care for each other, but how much they depend on each other.
Mm.
And I needed to see them pulled apart before I could be absolutely certain that they had their own personalities. Because I still felt like last episode they were a little bit too symbiotic. And then we get to this one, and like Simmons has a really tough time without him around, but like she comes out, you get a sense of who she really is, and Fitz especially. But the other thing that you really had to have last episode, that it was essential to have that episode, is you needed Fitz jumping out of the airplane. Or I'm sorry, you needed Fitz upset that he wasn't the guy that jumped out of the airplane.
That was central to the antagonistic relationship him and Ward initially have throughout their mission in here.
Yeah, and I really liked that they set up something to be their to be their the reason for their antagonistic relationship that didn't have anything to do with S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes, I thought that was great too.
Yay for that. This wasn't about a love triangle, and I really appreciated that. Which gives more credence. I'm not saying that couldn't have worked. I'm just saying that would have been the easy way out, right? And likely the easy way out, because I mean, let's face it, they're not a couple yet.
No.
And Fitz and S.H.I.E.L.D. don't seem like two people that would probably be like.
No, they have no romantic chemistry whatsoever.
So what I'm saying is, it would have been very difficult to make me care about that.
Oh yeah, Fitz definitely.
Is realistic if he thinks that those two, that he and she are going to get together. But now it's gonna be really funny if we get to season 3 and those two are like really intimate. And I'm like, all right, never mind. Well, because the thing is, Fitz is coming to his own. After this episode, I could see them building it to the point where maybe Fitz would be the kind of person that she would date, right? I mean, I could see that eventually happening. He's proven he could be a field agent, and I bought that hook, line and sinker ultimately. I was surprised that they made that work. Part of the way, by the way, they made that work was by not making him instantly, suddenly perfect at everything.
No, definitely not. Like the scene, especially with the sandwich, where he's like eating that while dogs are tracking them by scent, and Ward throws it in the water, and he's like, "Look, you need to be more careful about the things you do." And that scene also spoke to not only how he's inexperienced, but how much, like you said, he depends on Simmons. She made him that sandwich, and he was depending on that for his livelihood. And if you notice throughout their mission, he was talking about her constantly before that scene where Ward confronts him. He's like, "Look, this needs to stop." And then he comes out of his shell and learns how to be independent and be competent in the field without having to rely on things Simmons gives him or whatever, or even Ward's guidance.
We also get to see how sometimes his expertise is the perfect thing for the situation, and how sometimes it's not only not necessary, but could get in the way, or is just totally superfluous. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, I love the gadgetry in this one. I thought there was some really creative, inventive gadgetry things. Did this not feel the most like a spy show this show has ever felt?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I felt like we were back in like some sort of Cold War spy show. Like, you know, we're separating from Russia, like the Soviet Union breaking up or something. Like, I know that's not going on anymore, but like this country was trying to split off from Russia to be its own thing. There was this separatist movement, and they were gonna like blow up this thing to signify that they were separating and stuff like that. And they had to go stop a bomb. Basically, that's the plot of the episode. And there's a lot of stuff about thematically going on in the episode about like how expendable field agents are and that sort of stuff, which is, you know, classic spy kind of theme. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, when S.H.I.E.L.D. says, "What are we, just a number?"
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that calls back to the classic rock song "Secret Agent Man." You know, they've given you a number and taken away your name. But I love that song. Dan, I know you're not watching Arrow, but like, what was this like Russian terrorist week on television? 'Cause we went to Russia in Arrow this week also.
Really?
Yeah. And it's really interesting how the two episodes, like how the two episodes have somewhat similar things going on, but also entirely different things going on. Like in this episode, we go Ward is supposed to have a contact that he can go talk to, but then it turns out that the contact is dead and that whole thing falls apart, which I didn't see coming. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
And then in Arrow, Oliver Queen also has a Russian contact that he's going to go get help from in order to not defuse a bomb, but actually save someone who gets kidnapped. And in that one, it's completely opposite, where it's actually a really good friend that he helped once during the island stuff, and they're with each other the entire episode. So it's just really funny how totally different they are. But the fact that they both went to Russia, that's great.
What you mentioned there made me think about one of your earlier points that I think was very apt about Ward's contact being a failure, and Fitz is the one that's able to get them out of that sticky situation by turning the lights back on so they can watch the game.
I loved that. What I really liked about it was that once again, I've been having a tough time being sure how well I can trust the competency of this show, and it's proving itself in spades in this episode, especially where the lights go off, and I'm like, really? We're gonna be that convenient? No, we're not. And not only is it not just a plot convenience, but it's Fitz who does it,
Mm-hmm.
and like right away at the very beginning, the guy is terrified,
Yeah.
but he proves that in the moment, and this is a consistent thing. This is not just the episode like throwing character traits at him so that we'll like him. This is consistently, he's constantly not sure of himself, but when he's in that kind of a situation where he's probably going to die, he always has a plan. It comes naturally to him. He immediately comes up with. He's got these great defense mechanisms. It makes perfect sense for his character, and I really like that. So I like that he's the guy that shut the lights off, and I love that they waited about 10 minutes before they even told us that.
Yeah, I like that too, because I was thinking the same thing as you. I was like, oh, the lights conveniently went out at this point, and I love that they had him the architect behind that whole kind of thing. It says a lot about his character, but it also speaks to Ward's character in that Ward's more fallible than he likes to think that he is. He's a little bit overconfident, and it's nice to see. See, I wouldn't have initially put these two characters together, but they complement each other nicely because Fitz is the guy that's more competent than he thinks he is a lot of the time, and Ward is a little bit less competent than he thinks he is a lot of the time. Not that Ward is incompetent by any means. He's very good at what he does, but he's not infallible either.
No, I wrote that same note, and the thing is, the overconfidence um, gets Ward into trouble, and the lack of certainty gets Fitz into trouble. Mm-hmm. And what's really interesting, I just thought of this, is that together they form their own really good symbiosis.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
We are replacing the other half of that symbiotic relationship, right?
Yeah.
Where not so much with Simmons and Skye. I don't think those two together are getting all that much done. Well, I guess kind of, sort of, but they're not as clean about it at the very least, right? But at least with Fitz and Ward, they're like you said, they're complementing each other nicely. You put them together, and they can accomplish about anything. Just like you put the other two together. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it was nice to kind of swap the character dynamics and have them work that well. It shows to me that they really thought out who they wanted these people to be when the show started. This was in the plan, or at least they worked well with what they had. I'm not sure what the case was, but
they're making it convincing. Yeah. It doesn't matter. They're making it very convincing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I never expected to see this actor playing Fitz do the stuff he does in this episode. I didn't know he was capable of it. I said early on I didn't think neither he or Simmons can act. Boy, was I wrong. And I love that I'm wrong this early, right? And already last episode I thought he was doing okay, but I mean acting wise, this episode I'm just like, oh wait. He's at the same caliber as the guy playing Ward. Okay, never mind. Something I picked up on that I don't know if it was intentional is that Fitz is a more snarky Scotty from Star Trek.
Oh wow, I didn't even pick up on that, but yeah,
That's
that's
what
an
he
interesting
is.
parallel.
I never thought of that, and even with the accent and stuff, I never thought about it. You know what really did it for me, and this was one of my favorite moments. You get toward the end, and he's got that great moment with Ward where he says this is going to take a while, and Ward says you've got 10 minutes, and he goes, I thought you were going to say five.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
There is an episode of I'll make this brief. There is an episode of a TNG called Relics where Scotty shows up in Next Generation.
Oh, cool.
And there's this hilarious scene where he's telling Geordi, they do all this stuff with them as the engineers, and he's telling Geordi that you never tell the captain how long it's really going to take. And we see Fitz do exactly that here. I think that's really funny.
Yeah, that is awesome.
I thought you were gonna say five. What a great line. And I couldn't believe he's full of that kind of stuff in this. He's really funny. And I mean, like you and I have been down on his humor most of this year. I mean, most of these episodes, I laughed several times.
I did too. My favorite line in this episode was a comedic line, and it was from Simmons, oddly enough, that I thought I genuinely laughed out loud at towards the end. I thought really funny exchange between the two of them. So,
So
yeah, I
yeah,
mean, the one humor thing, if I were to make a complaint, would be the scene where Simmons gets caught by the S.H.I.E.L.D agent Jasper Sitwell is a little over the top, but
I
it was kind of funny.
I figured you'd say that. Yeah, I was of two minds about it also, and it's one of those things where I'm enjoying this episode so much that those sorts of things don't bug me as much as they do
Right.
in episodes that aren't working as well. But yeah, no, you're right. I wondered if they had to go quite as far as they did because are they maybe throwing her a little bit under the bus? Because the thing is, I do like the idea of one of these people is naturally cut out to be a field agent but doesn't realize it, and the other one totally isn't.
Mhm.
And maybe eventually they'll get Simmons to the point where she can be. Now, I could see that,
Right.
but right now, obviously, she's got nothing,
Yeah.
and maybe part of that is she trusts the system too much. Although with Fitz, but actually, no, I'm wrong because it didn't take her very long to turn around on that, did it? So never mind.
Right.
But I don't know what I do kind of wonder about it a little bit is like it's like in order to make Fitz seem and he is, but in order to make Fitz seem as field worthy as he is, it's like they've got to make her the total opposite of that.
Yeah.
Like just how completely incompetent she is there. And I didn't have this, but I wonder if some people might call foul on the fact that they're making the male in the situation the great field agent, but the female can't do that work. I wonder if that might bug people. I didn't think of it like that, but I did wonder if maybe somebody would.
I didn't think of it that way either, especially since we have another female character in this show who's really I mean it's not
No, we
like
have
both of them have no skills
Sky.
whatsoever. They're good at other things too.
Yeah, and Sky is a great field agent.
Yeah, she is. She is. And I think that's an interesting parallel between the two of them too. You said maybe Simmons trusts the system a little too much. And throughout the show, I mean, it's not specifically in this episode because Sky's sort of validated in being a little bit paranoid here, I think.
I think she is too, and I was surprised by that. As soon as she started in on, I'm curious, I got to figure this out. I was like, really? You just got the collar on or the bracelet on 2 episodes ago. You're really gonna throw that away over I've got to know? But then she ultimately had really good reasons for thinking something
Right.
weird was going on. Yeah,
But like in the previous episodes, her problem a lot of the time had been she can't trust people or any sort of system enough at all. Like she can't give anything the benefit of the doubt because, I mean, it makes sense given her background, but that's sort of like her personal issue at this point. Even though Coulson has her best interests in mind, she finds it hard to trust him sometimes, and that's an interesting kind of thing I think where like that's the two weaknesses of both of them and you put those two together and you can maybe form some sort of rational way of trusting people just like you have the effectiveness of Ward and Fitz in the field which is sort of an interesting kind of thing.
yeah. I just didn't expect that kind of dimension.
Yeah.
between those two. That seemed, because you said I wouldn't put these two together. In a way, to me it seemed like the obvious thing to do if you wanted to make a big deal out of the reasons that they don't immediately get along and stuff.
Hmm.
I kind of, because I've seen a lot of episodes of things where it's like, especially again Star Trek, where you take like two characters that don't like each other and you strand them on a planet, and at the end of the episode they get along. This is better than that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe what I meant to say was like, not that I couldn't see these two being put together in an episode. It's like I didn't expect them to have the same sort of chemistry that they had. You know what I mean? Like
No,
it does seem, you're right. It does seem like the obvious thing to take the jock and the nerd, put them together, and be like, oh, they get along by the end of the episode. Because like that's the sort of, if you remove all the dimension from them, Ward's the meathead, and Fitz is the guy that's like the techie kind of guy,
yeah.
and but like I never expected them to work together to the nuanced degree that it happens in here. Is sort of what I meant to say. Personality wise, they matched up really well.
You're absolutely right, and I think that moving forward, we're going to see those two completely different around each other.
Oh yeah,
Or at
definitely.
least I hope so.
I think that'll be the case.
Yeah.
I like that they're turning into like a pseudo family on this ship now. Where like Coulson's the mom, Coulson's the dad. Melinda LeMay is the mom.
Mom.
Yeah, that's what I almost said.
He's Mr. Mom.
But yeah, I sort of like that. We're getting a pseudo family out of this. It's very cool. I like that.
One thing I really appreciated too about this episode over a lot of the others so far is that it plays like a mostly Fitz-centered episode, but I think only because we've seen Ward do spy stuff before. I think it would be easy to watch this and forget that it's character building for him also. That
Mm.
these two are doing a lot of things for each other. Every character gets major things to do in this episode.
Yeah, I mean you
Like
can't discount
it's,
what Sky
it's
has
incredible.
revelations about in this either.
No,
There's
no,
major
certainly.
stuff for her.
And what Coulson is keeping from her, and like the the inherent weird hypocrisy of he doesn't trust the system, but he expects her to. He's keeping information from her for her own good, but the system is keeping information away from him for his own good,
Right.
and he will take that, but he expects Sky to. And then remember that a couple episodes ago she had secrets that she kept from people to protect them also. There's all, you see what I'm saying,
Yeah.
like everybody is doing this to some degree, and it's handling the whole why do people keep secrets thing in I think a relatively smart and interesting way, given that secrets seem to be the thing that drive a lot of dramatic television shows, and I think it's easy to do that in really simple, obvious ways. And I think the show is getting around that
Yeah,
pretty
and
well.
it plays into the sort of genre that this show wants to exist into. I mean, that's the core of what spying is all about, is finding out the secrets of your enemy, right? And it's interesting that they live in this sort of environment as spies where not only there are they trying to find out the secrets of the enemy, but they have to deal with keeping secrets from each other, and they're the people that they're supposed to be able to trust. It's an interesting sort of dynamic that you get to play with there, and I think yeah, you're right. They are handling it really well.
Well, and I just thought of this. You said earlier how, and I don't know if this is intentional. I bet it's not. You said you were talking earlier about how they're becoming much more of a family here, and this is the first time I've really felt that. And maybe we needed the build up to this, where we finally bought it. Maybe we wouldn't have bought this 3 episodes in. But you've where you said you've got Coulson as kind of the dad, and Melinda May as kind of the mom. Have you noticed that we have a six-pronged cast here where 3 of them are male, 3 of them are female? They are the Brady Bunch minus two.
That's true. Oh man, I didn't even think
That's
of it that way.
Yeah. They're the Brady Bunch on an airplane minus two, and because none of them are related in any way whatsoever, they can all date.
Right. Oh,
Um, well, do you want to move on to best and worst moments, or
yeah,
was there anything else?
sure. I mean, we could talk all day about this episode generally, I think, but
I feel like there's a lot here.
yeah.
Would it be fair to say best episode so far?
I think I would have to say this is the one I enjoyed the most so far. I would agree
Yeah,
with
and
that.
like I said, I think when I go back and watch the one from last time that I was really down on, I'll feel differently about it having seen this one.
Oh yeah, yeah, sure. Um,
I
I
think I needed this. I just didn't. I didn't buy that they were gonna make me like these people this quickly, the way they've done it. And I think I probably missed out on some dimension they were giving Simmons last episode because I wasn't. I just wasn't believing that they were doing what they were telling me they were doing. Now that I've seen this, yeah, okay. I will concede. I think it's better than I thought it was.
yeah, and um, I think it's a credit to the show that they were able to do that in just 2 episodes. Make these
Yeah.
characters that layered and sort of dimensioned in 2 episodes. Because like I'm with you. Before we got these 2 episodes, they were doing nothing for me. Like they were two dimensional stereotypes for a lot
You're
of the
talking
time.
Fitz and Simmons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and now they're not. And like I said, last episode made me like them a little bit better, but I wasn't buying some of what they were doing with them. This episode, I not only like them both, but I feel like they should be here now.
Definitely.
Before, remember last episode I'd kill him. If you killed him next week, I'd cry. You know, so I needed
Well,
this.
hopefully, like you said, in the Whedon tradition, where he makes you care about
Oh,
characters a lot and then kills them. Hopefully, that's not what happens.
you know what's gonna happen, don't you? You should save this for predictions. You know what's gonna
Fitz is gonna
happen.
die next episode.
No, Simmons is gonna
Yeah.
die because they made you think maybe they'd kill her, and then they did what I thought was the obvious thing. Oh, the last half an hour was totally predictable. Yeah, because this is part of a greater whole, and they're gonna freaking kill her off 3 episodes from now. You just watch.
Oh.
She ain't making it, man. I might not be right about that, but I'm telling you, I think somebody dies before the season's
And it
out.
can't be Sky or Ward, so it's one of
No.
those two.
No, maybe not. Maybe they don't kill somebody first season out. Whedon doesn't always kill someone first season
Mhm.
out. You know what I mean? And also keep in mind, this isn't a huge ensemble cast. We only have 6, and if you killed one, you'd probably have to replace him because it's not a very big cast. So I'm just blowing smoke. I'm probably totally off. I'm just saying that it would be a Whedon thing to do to make me go, what? Such an easy, predictable episode, and then turn right back around and go, yeah, I know what you thought I was doing. Now I'm gonna make you like her and then kill her. Oh no, don't do that.
Oh man.
Please don't kill Fitz.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to die at this point.
No, I don't either, but I really like Fitz now. I'm not saying I don't like Simmons. I mean,
Right.
I think seeing them apart maybe like them together more. But I like Fitz now. He's so much fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's so incredibly Scottish, and now that he got to be without her, we got to really see that shine through, and it was great. Okay, so what was your favorite moment, Dan?
My favorite moment was Sky and Coulson's confrontation at the hub for the exact reasons you were sort of talking about before. At that point, when I was watching the episode, we didn't know that Coulson was unaware that there was no extraction team going in. So you sort of see Clark Gregg play that sort of revelation come over him very
Yeah.
subtly. The
He does.
acting in that scene was superb on both of their parts, and it also speaks to the sort of thing where like Coulson has to keep secrets from Sky, but wants her to be completely truthful with him. The hypocrisy of that sort of relationship. That was by far my favorite scene in the episode. I loved it. I thought it was great.
My favorite scene was a comedic scene that encapsulates what's working about the dimension that we're getting between in the character building that we're getting between Ward and Fitz here. Excuse me. We have that what I thought was a really funny scene where with the magic window. And the reason I'm calling that my favorite scene is because you've got Fitz puts up this elaborate device that he has to talk about, like how it works, and he puts it up, and then he's talking about how he can see people through it and what they're doing, and then of course Fitz goes, and then of course Ward goes in and he takes everybody out. The thing I noticed the second time around that I didn't catch the first time is that Ward whips out a flashlight. Did you notice this?
Yeah, and he kept flashing it on and off.
He flashes it on and off, and he's able to figure out everything that Fitz does with much simpler, less sophisticated technology in a fraction of the time that Fitz does it. And then he goes in, takes care of everybody, and comes right back out. There are others. That, in my mind, is the very best demonstration of the differences in how these two men think and the different ways in which they are resourceful. Because if you compare this to the earlier scene where Fitz managed to break all the power out, he did that in somewhat of a simple way, but he had a device on him that could do well. Ward would have never known what to do or how to handle that. So I would say that was resourceful. Obviously, he had things on him, but he knew how to do it. So they are both resourceful characters, but in different sorts of ways. So there are moments where Ward has to kind of be sort of put in his place where it's like, well, I don't have the sophisticated technology, so there's situations that I can't get out of by myself. Whereas there are places where his cumbersome technology sometimes with Fitz sometimes takes too long and you don't need it and it's not necessary and you think that better that more complicated immediately means better and it doesn't. Sometimes the simple tool is the right one for the job. So anyway, that's why I like that scene so much.
Right, and I think the great thing about that scene too is it doesn't spoon feed the audience and have Ward open the door and be like, "Look, I just figured this out with my flashlight, and this is how I did it." It was very subtle. Like if you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't know that's why he's
I
flashing the
wasn't.
light on and off.
I didn't even notice the flashlight. That's why I think part of the reason I wrote that scene down, that wasn't what I was going to write down initially, but I think I was impressed by the fact that it took me a second viewing before I caught it, because the scene still plays without it, but there's more going on.
Right,
See, it's
exactly.
there. There's some cool subtext there. Boy, I don't know. This one's working for me.
Yeah,
I
I
was
think so
happy.
too.
Worst moment.
My worst moment, I think, was the one-sided conversation Coulson had with Melinda May while she was doing Tai Chi on the plane.
You didn't like that?
I don't know. I thought it was a little over the top and goofy for me. Um, Not that it would like there
I
wasn't
didn't know
very
she.
much in this episode that I
Yeah.
straight up didn't like. So that was my least favorite of the scenes in the episode. I had things, that I kind of liked about that scene. I think the actress who played Melinda May acted it really well. Her facial expressions like kind of spoke to what she would have said in the conversation, I suppose. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought it was a little over the top for my taste.
No, I'm with you. I mean, the eye roll was kind of nice because we don't get to we don't get much comedy from Melinda May so far, as she always kind of has one expression, and so it's kind of nice to occasionally, and Whedon shows do this a lot, where you have that like really stoic character that every now and again will have that moment where they're just another person too, and so when she's just like, okay, like that look was like, it was almost a look that said, "God, men." I don't mean that it was a sexist thing, but you know what I mean. Like it kind of played like that. Whereas like it was like, man, like I wouldn't be handling this like this. I'd be so much more cool under fire.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I thought some of that stuff
That
was
was the thing that was funny. But I get why you would say that. My worst moment was Simmons' lack of bedside manner at the beginning. When she says "Don't breathe," and then she goes, "Oh, that's a joke." I'm like, is this a situation where you should be joking? I just sort of wondered about that.
it also kind of
That's a
speaks
joke.
to her incompetence with like socializing with other people, like because we see that later on in the episode when she's talking to that guy and tries to hit on him.
Yeah, that no, that's true. I mean, she is more antisocial than I think I realized, because you only see her with Fitz, and she's not with him
Right.
because they speak the same language. It's like that. It's like a language barrier.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think what happens is we see Fitz. Ah, this is it. This is cool. I think we see Fitz and Ward develop their own language, like Fitz has one with
Oh, that's a
Simmons.
good point. I like that a lot because that would speak to the symbiotic relationship you felt like they had before.
Yeah, and these two built one that they could have in the field. I don't think this is the last time we see Ward and Fitz in the field
I don't think
together.
so either.
Let's go on to what's the big idea. We've talked about a ton of stuff, so let's gloss over this real quick. What did you have written down, Dan?
Kind of one of the permeating themes of the entire show has been the blind trust of authority. That's something that I felt like was going on in this episode. The nature of secrets, who you keep them from, who you can trust, how they affect people, why you should keep them. all of those sorts of things. Those questions were being asked in the episode, and prioritizing, the needs of, people personally, your friends, your family, versus the needs of the entire world as perceived by some sort of authority that you don't really understand, because that's talked about in here a lot, where like if only you were able to understand the big picture, you would agree with us and you would trust the system. And that's why the people of higher levels think that Coulson and like some of the lower shield agents are out of line when they care so much about the personal agents in the field, because they're saying, look, you just lack perspective. You don't understand what's going on in the world because you just don't know enough. You're not privy to what Shield is trying to do on a larger level. So I feel like that was something that was going on here too. Maybe like um, information in today's world is sort of, people have said that information is almost like the currency of today's world, and that determines how powerful you are, and how you can affect the world based on how much you know. So I felt like that was a little bit going on in there too.
The only thing I would add, I had a lot of that too, and you mentioned some things I didn't. I also wrote down the idea that no system is perfect, no matter how much it tries to be and how
Right.
good its intentions are. Maybe some of that was in what you said, but
No, no, no. That's not what I was saying, but I agree. I think you're right. That is going on here.
yeah, I really like. Well, you know what? That's my favorite line, so I'm not gonna say it yet. I'll leave you hanging for a minute. Let's go ahead and go into guest stars. Agent Stillwell is played by Max Emiliano Hernandez, who is going to be in Captain America: Winter Soldier.
And
This
who is a
character,
comic book character, which is cool.
yeah, very cool. I'm glad that we're bringing more comic characters. I'm glad we're having some more crossover. I've been wanting that. We got more of that. I just feel like I got everything I wanted in this episode, man.
Mm.
It's like they wrapped up a Christmas present for me and let me unwrap it early here, man. Like, yeah,
Two comic book characters in the same episode. That's pretty cool.
the other one was Victorian Hand, played by Saffron Burrows, who was a recurring character in Boston Legal, amongst lots of other things.
She was pretty good. I liked her quite a bit in this.
I liked her too. Does she have those purple highlights in the
She
comics?
does.
Oh, okay, cool. That's neat.
Yeah. She
Yeah,
looked
see,
pretty just, straight up off the page in here, which was nice.
I wondered. It's funny that Shield doesn't have any kind of like a dress or hair code. Like you can just do
Yeah,
that.
that's true. Oh man, if
Like
only
being,
they.
being such a military conversation or such a militant organization, it's surprising that they let you get away with that.
It is kind of surprising. You're right. Man, if only they had the rights to Spider-Man on TV, you could have her interact with Norman Osborn. How cool would that be?
Oh, you know what? That was a question I was going to ask you about earlier because I was just actually a couple of things.
Sure.
Because I was having so much fun praising this episode, I didn't even give you the couple of criticisms I had about it. One thing, these are minor. One thing I was gonna mention is I don't want to seem like I'm pulling my punches. I did have a couple things I wondered
Oh
about.
yeah.
One is why not just make why not just make Coulson's team the extraction team in the first place? Why did they go in without an extraction team? Because Coulson's plane is just not doing anything. So like, why not just make them the extract? I couldn't figure out why they couldn't be in on this information.
That's true.
Because I get the whole it's classified thing, but why classified from them necessarily? I mean, ultimately they go in and Victoria Hand has that line where she's like, "Well, they didn't need, I mean, we didn't need to make an extraction plan because Coulson had." But the thing is, Coulson didn't know that you didn't have one. You kept it from him on purpose. I don't really understand all that.
Well, maybe it was the type of thing where that explosion was going to go off and they didn't want to risk more agents than they had to. Like, risk putting an extraction team in there, risking more lives than just those two people.
Maybe
But,
so.
but I'm not sure. They didn't really make that clear enough.
Yeah, I do feel like it would have made a little bit. Well, the problem is, it would have made more sense if they had done something like that, but then you wouldn't have had the whole business of we're keeping things from Coulson,
Right.
which is maybe a little contrived that that's one of the things they're keeping from him, because I'm just not sure why they're doing that. That's all I'm saying. I
Yeah.
mean, because the thing is, if we didn't have to play that up as a big theme, if we didn't have to play up the whole idea of all of these people have things being kept away from them, then you could have just given Coulson the option. You could have said, okay, we're not going to risk anybody but you guys if you want to be risked.
Hmm.
But then again, we know Fury doesn't want that airplane messed up again, so he was pretty on
And
about
no
that. He's
fish
pretty on about his
tanks.
bar, so I don't know. I don't know. No fish tanks. The other thing too is in my experience, where I come from, and I'm from the deep south so originally, so maybe we do things strange where I'm from, Dan. Where I'm from, whenever you want to eliminate food evidence, you eat it. And I had a little bit of a tough time with the idea of, oh man, we've got the sandwich and the dogs can track us, we better throw it in the water. Why not just scarf it down?
I'm not sure. Maybe the idea was like he would have got some of the sauce on him, or he might have like farted, or I don't know.
Okay, that's a good, maybe so.
But I'm
I'm
not
just saying,
sure.
at the very least, why not just have Fitz go, okay, I get why you don't think I was supposed to bring it, but why couldn't I eat it? Like, at least have Fitz ask that question.
Right, true.
Anyway, that was it. Let's go on to favorite lines now. What was your favorite line? You mentioned what scene it was in. What was it?
My favorite line was when Fitz came back and he was talking about what he did in the field, and he was talking to Simmons, and he was like, "Oh, so anything exciting happened at the hub while I was gone?" And she went, "I shot a superior officer in the chest." I thought that was really funny.
I've been doing this a lot with Arrow, where I have like a favorite line and a least favorite, or I'm sorry, not a favorite, like a serious line and a joke line. And whenever I happen to write both down, I like to give them both. My humorous line is, "Now you've destroyed the world's most dangerous sandwich. Congratulations." I don't know why I like that. I think it works in a Scottish accent in the way that it's not as funny when I say it. And also, my favorite serious line was related to the theme that I brought up about no system is perfect, where Coulson says our team can go off book because there is a book.
Yes, I like that
I
line.
think that's a strong line. It's an important line. It's gonna play. It's gonna permeate through more episodes. I
Oh, I
think
think so too.
Okay, so the comic book references are pretty obvious. We mentioned a couple of characters that you knew were comic characters. Thank God you knew that. I didn't even think to look it up. I'm not used to looking that up with the show because a lot of the time it's not a comic book character. I think that was great. Yeah. Did you have anything else?
Nothing else that I noticed. Just those two characters. Jasper Sitwell is back in the early days of Marvel. He was Tony Stark's Shield liaison. So like the role that Coulson plays in the movies to Tony Stark, where he goes and like tries to recruit him for the Avengers. That would have been Jasper Sitwell doing that kind of stuff. And he's done some other stuff over the years. And Victoria Hand is the Shield lady that co-ran Hammer with Norman Osborn when it got transferred over to that organization when he was running Shield. So, yeah, two very cool characters to bring in. But other than those two, I didn't really notice anything else.
All right, let's jump on to trivia. Dan, what was your trivia question from last week, and what was the answer?
The trivia question I had last week was Nick Fury formed an Avengers team in 1959, and who was the Spider-Man villain that was on the team? The answer was Kraven the Hunter. He was an Avenger back in the 50s, going around taking out the Nazis, or the remnants of the Third Reich. Anyway, cool stuff.
Yeah. My question from last time was, what was the country that they were flying over when Simmons jumped out of the airplane? And the country was Morocco, which is mentioned in a throwaway line. A lot of people got it, which I thought was cool. Where Coulson says that it sucks to have to deal with the Moroccan agents, which I just thought was really funny. What's your trivia question for this week, Dan?
My trivia question is related to Victoria Hand. I figured I'd do one related to her because she was in this episode. And in the comics, Norman Osborn has this list that he wants things to be eliminated, and Victoria Hand is assigned with eliminating Bruce Banner. Which supervillain does she go on that mission with?
Cool. But Dan, I'm going to cheat, buddy. I got two.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, do you mind? Can
No,
I do
no,
two?
not at
Okay.
all.
I thought this episode was incredibly trivia worthy. I could have done 6 or 7. There were a lot of neat, like, little places where there'd be something written on the screen or something that would easily be something you might remember, and you might think you were cool for remembering. So here are 2 things you might think you're cool for remembering. The first one is, what does the hub computer say? It has a vocal thing that it talks. What does the hub computer say before it takes an ID picture to allow access to restricted areas?
I have no idea what the answer to that is.
I'm gonna tell you about it after we get finished, and you're gonna crack up because I laughed my brains out when I heard it the first. I heard it the first time it says it, and I went, "That is such a Whedon thing." The hint is It's hilarious. And the second question is not what kind of sandwich is it, but what kind of cheese is on Fitz's sandwich?
Oh, I don't remember that either.
He says it like 5 times.
Yeah,
So anyway,
I remember him saying one ingredient being really important to him.
yeah. Well, he mentioned he keeps saying the same like it's this kind of sandwich with this kind of cheese.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, thanks everybody for listening. This one went pretty long because boy, this is a thick episode. I thought it was a lot to discuss.
Dense.
Exploring. I felt like we came up with all kinds of things that we didn't come up with separately.
Yeah, as we got talking, I realized how good the episode was. Like, I liked it a lot going into the podcast, but I think I liked it a lot more after we talked about it.
Me too. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that was super, super fun. Well, Dan, thanks as always for joining me, and everybody, thanks as always for listening. We'll see you again next week when we'll be talking about the episode that apparently is supposed to be dealing with stuff from the new Thor movie from Dark World. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
I bet it'll be that the four-legged thing running around from the post-credit sequence.
Oh, you know what? That'd be really funny. Although I'd be really surprised if they did that because the CG.
Yeah, that's true. It's probably expensive.
But you're right. Did anybody ever contain that?
I don't think so.
I don't think they did either. You're right. I think it's just running around somewhere. That should have been the post-credit scene. That thing just like knocks over a hot dog stand or something.
Would have been awesome.
Well, all right. Thanks again for listening. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
See you later.